Ladies and gentlemen, please stand. 0846, American Airlines Flight 11 crashes into Manhattan's World Trade Center, North Tower. 0903, United Airlines Flight 175 crashes into World Trade Center, South Tower. 0937, American Airlines Flight 77 hits the west wall of the Pentagon. 0958, the Trade Center's South Tower collapses. 10:03, United Airlines Flight 93 crashes into rural Pennsylvania. 10:28, the Trade Center's North Tower collapses. The number of dead totals 2,977, including 411 first responders killed at the World Trade Center. The loss still seems unimaginable. Guests, please be seated. Mayor Passero, distinguished state and local and community leaders, active duty members and veterans of our armed forces, especially our sea services in southeastern Connecticut, first responders from across our region, guests, friends, and visitors, welcome to City Pier Plaza, New London, and the Connecticut Maritime Heritage Festival. I am Senior Chief Justin Wiscons from Nuclear Regional Maintenance Department at Naval Submarine Base, New London. I'll be serving as the Master of Ceremonies today. Today, our New London community comes together with our sea service shipmates from the U.S. Coast Guard and Navy and our southeastern Connecticut community to remember the 21st anniversary of September 11th, 2001, terrorist attacks upon our nation. As we remember that fateful day and reflect on the 2 decades that have passed since, we will also retire some worn but no less revered symbols of our nation and our unshakable spirit. We will conduct a special flag retirement ceremony. We also would like to thank and recognize first responders who are with us today and are represented by various members of local fire and police departments, including Subbase. Additionally, some are aboard the Groton Long Point Volunteer Fire Department fireboat and City of Norwich Fire and Rescue Boat Marine One out on the river, and later in the ceremony, they'll be conducting a water display in honor of the first responders lost on 9/11. First, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in honoring our great nation. Please stand for the presentation of colors by the Naval Submarine School Silver Dolphins Color Guard and remain standing for the national anthem and invocation. This morning, I would like to introduce the U.S. Coast Guard Academy Cadet Chorale to perform the national anthem. Color Guard, parade the colors.
Hey. Good. Ready? Good. Forward. Good. Hold on. Hold. Left. Think. Breathe in. Hold.
Behind the dawn's early light, what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last
Color guard, retire the colors.
Aye, sir. Hey, cut. Ready, cut. Right, think. Forward, march.
Thank you, Silver Dolphins and Coast Guard Academy Cadet Corral. Please welcome Earl Colella, the chaplain for Subvets Groton, to deliver the invocation.
Thank you, Senior Chief. May the Lord be with you always. Let us pray. Oh God, you are our hope and refuge. In our distress, we come quickly to you. We come today remembering those who lost their lives on September 11th, 2001, in New York City, in Washington, D.C., and in the fields of Pennsylvania. May we ever be mindful of the sacrifice of the public servants that day, who demonstrated the greatest love of all by laying down their lives so that others may live. We come remembering, we come in hope, not in ourselves, but in you. In commemorating this tragedy, we give you thanks for your presence in our time of need, and we thank you for all of our brave and gallant young and old first responders and military personnel, past, present, and future. Amen.
Thank you, Earl. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. 2001, or 9/11, as that date is now everlastingly known, was a defining moment in our history. As events unfolded that sunny September day, the world witnessed evil and loss, heroism and sacrifice, resolve and determination. On this 21st anniversary of 9/11, we remember all victims of the attacks. And as members of our armed forces who wear a uniform and serve our country every day, we especially call attention to and remember those first responders lost. Of the 2,977 victims killed in the 9/11 attacks, 411 were emergency workers in New York City who responded to the World Trade Center. This included 343 firefighters, including a chaplain and 2 paramedics of the New York City Fire Department. 37 police officers of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey Police Department. 23 police officers of the New York City Police Department. And 8 emergency medical technicians and paramedics from private emergency medical services. For a great many of the family and friends of these first responders, faith has helped them through these trying times. In that light, it seems fitting that we again call upon Chaplain Colella to offer a special prayer for our first responders.
I would like to read a poem. It's entitled My Prayer for First Responders by Ed Ostrom. Oh Lord, I thank you for compassionate men and women today who selflessly serve all kinds of weather day after day, answering emergency calls, rescuing many each day in all kinds of circumstances along life's way. First responders compassionately striving to meet many needs, and compassion and courage performing heroic deeds, experiencing a hodgepodge of emotions day after day, cascade from heights of joy to the depths of despair along the way. They know the wondrous joy of lives rescued, saved, and set free, restoration, freedom, and a hope of ongoing victory. giving them fresh energy and new hope to carry on as first responders in crisis situations, hard and long. But alas, they also know the pain of death and horrible loss, human pain reaping such a heavy toll and terrible cost, emotionally draining and ripping at the first responder's heart, causing a streaming flood of hot tears to uncontrollably start. Oh Lord, hear my prayer to our first responders today. Oh, now in love, strengthen them deep within, I humbly pray. Compassionately now draw them into your loving arms. Give them the energy to go on and protect them from all that harms. Thank you.
Thank you, Earl. As we mark the 21st anniversary of 9/11, here in southeastern Connecticut, we are surrounded by a legacy of boldness and courage, fundamental to the establishment, preservation, and perseverance of our nation. The U.S. Coast Guard is part of that legacy. As the attacks on 9/11 unfolded, the United States Coast Guard Sector New York closed the New York harbor to all ship movements. After the collapse of the South Tower, many evacuees began to arrive at the lower Hudson River piers to try and evacuate. The Coast Guard Vessel Traffic Service and the Harbor Unit of the New York Police Department put out emergency calls to all nearby vessels to help evacuate the many people arriving at Battery Park. Beyond smaller Coast Guard craft, the Coast Guard tug Hauser, homeported in Bayonne, New Jersey, was the first on scene in New York Harbor and acted as on-scene commander. The ADAC arrived on scene an hour later and took over on-scene commander responsibilities. For hours, ADAC coordinated the evacuation of civilians, transport of firefighters and rescue personnel, and the establishment of security zones to protect other high-valued assets from further attack. Cutters Catherine Walker and Tahoma also supported efforts in and around New York Harbor following the attacks. To share his own story of response on 9/11, which led to his service in the U.S. Coast Guard, please join me in welcoming Chief Petty Officer Peter McManus from the Coast Guard Academy.
Thank you, Senior. Good morning. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Pete McManus, and I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. For those of you that do know me, you know how much I enjoy public speaking, so I promise I won't make this take any longer than it has to. On September 11th, 2001, I was a student at St. Peter's College in Jersey City, New Jersey, which is located directly across the Hudson River from Manhattan. Like many college kids, my priorities were more focused on extracurricular activities instead of my academic studies. While I'm not proud to say this, I have to admit, when walking to class that morning and first hearing about the attack at the World Trade Center, without knowing the full magnitude of what happened, my first thought was class is canceled. Upon returning to the apartment I shared with 3 roommates, we started watching the events unfold on TV. And immediately, we realized how bad the situation was. After watching the second plane crash into the second tower, we went up to the roof of the building where we had a clear line of sight of both towers burning. Immediately, we knew that life as we knew it would never be the same. Later that day, me and my roommate heard a reporter on the news say that there was a desperate need for blood donations. We hopped in his car and went down to Jersey City Medical Center and were turned away because the hospital did not have the capacity to accept any more donations. While there, we heard about a need for volunteers down at the Jersey City waterfront to help assist with loading emergency supplies to be delivered to Ground Zero. Down at the waterfront, after helping load up these supplies, I heard some burly, longshoreman-looking guy say, "Hey, we need help unloading this stuff." Me and Mike looked at each other, and the next thing I know, I was on a tugboat cutting across the Hudson River. After seeing the chaos on the New York side, we somehow ended up in the bucket brigade, which was basically a long line of people passing 5-gallon buckets of debris in an attempt to clear the space to allow for search and rescue efforts. We spent several hours there and went back again the next day. I was not in the Coast Guard yet, but this definitely had a major influence in my decision to enlist. As I mentioned earlier, I did not always make the best decisions when I was younger, and sometimes I still don't. But joining the Coast Guard is one I have no regrets about. A couple months ago, I had the fortunate opportunity to participate in Chief's Call to Indoctrination. Part of this process involved a visit to the 9/11 Museum in Lower Manhattan. This was my first visit, and it definitely brought back a lot of memories from that day I had not thought about in a long time. In casual conversation, I shared a story with Senior Chief Nelson. Similar to how responding to Ground Zero led me to eventually enlist in the Coast Guard, that same conversation is why I'm standing here today. You never know how certain moments in your life will impact your future, so don't take anything for granted. While I appreciate you all allowing me to share my story with you, today is not about me. Please never forget the thousands of men and women we lost that day and the years fighting the war on terrorism. Thank you for your time. Semper Paratus.
Thank you, Chief McManus. Witnessing the tragic attacks on 9/11 and the heroic response also led to the submarine service and career of the current Naval Submarine Base New London Command Master Chief. Please join me in welcoming Command Master Chief Kellen Voland.
Thanks, Pete. That was our stories run along similar tracks, and it's cool to see how two people from similar necks of the woods, Pete being from Brooklyn? Yes. Yeah, Pete from Brooklyn, and I'm from Connecticut, and how our paths have rejoined on this day. So it's a tremendous story. So distinguished guests, honored friends and visitors, first responders that are standing ready right now as we speak to go rush into the fire and into harm's way. Thank you all for being here, friends and family. So September 11th, 2001 started as any normal day would for a senior at Fitch High School. First period was unassigned, so I didn't have to be there until about 9:06, which included a stop at Best Eaten Coffee for a tank, and then a slow, very slow drive back up the hill to Fitch High School. When I walked down the long hallway into my AP American History, I saw Mr. Browning standing there, staring at the television with a couple of other kids in the class, looking at the events that were unfolding. At this point, there was a billowing smoke that was coming out of the North Tower, and we assumed it was a tragic accident. It became very evident very quickly that this was not a tragic accident, and this day would unfold like no other that we had ever seen. That whole day we spent mostly at the school thinking about our friends and family, those that served, and watching the events as they unfolded. And when you grow up along the shores of the Thames River, especially on the Groton side, you have a special place in your heart for those that serve. We are the submarine capital of the world. We are a submarine community. And we're surrounded by heroes of the submarine force. And there were modern day heroes of the submarine force that were on our minds that day. So those folks like Admiral Arnie Lotring, Command Master Chief Al Atkinson, Command Master Chief Mike Gary, Mike Gary and Captain Don Gary. Those were heroes of the local submarine force. But to me, growing up at Fitch High School, they were the parents of Brittany, Lauren, Allie, and Mo, John, Chris, and Stephanie, Stephen, Matt, and Andrew, and Heather. They were some people's parents. They were my friends' parents. So they spent that day wondering and worried what was going to happen to their fathers in this case. Were they going to go to sea? Were they going to come back? What was the next nature of their lives, the next phase of their lives? Because those attacks on that day profoundly changed how we defend this nation. Providence turned around, went back and shot first missiles. We are a service community, and we are honored by those that serve. So to me, growing up in that era of service, to join the United States Navy, and eventually follow in their footsteps and join in the submarine force. But 21 years ago is more than just my story. It's more than just our story of this small community. 21 years ago marks the change of a nation. We changed on that day, and our inherent resolve, our unyielding spirit, and our indomitable determination was forged on 9/12 by the flags that you see draped on homes and houses and neighborhoods, out of cars and businesses and shops. From 9/12 on, we were a nation that may have been divided, but we were indivisible. And it was important for me to continue my service in that spirit. And I haven't forgotten about that day and today, 21 years ago, since then. We should be forever grateful for those who on our streets, from our neighborhoods, in our towns, in the small hovels and hamlets of southeastern Connecticut, have raised their right hand and put their left hand on what they swear to and said, sign me up. Let me go into the fight. Those that we've lost, those that have paved the way, and those that have given the ultimate sacrifice to defend a nation. We should never forget their sacrifice for those that have lost their lives on 9/11 and every day since in defense of that effort. Because we are, as Abraham Lincoln once said, the last best hope. So in that effort, we cannot ever forget their response that day of our heroes, of our first responders, of regular Americans just rushing to donate blood. We can never forget the response of those Americans who have heeded the call and said, sign me up, take me, I'll go. For if we forget their memories, if we forget to perpetuate or we no longer perpetuate their memories, we will ourselves have been lost. So in that effort, we must know that as the United States of America, we will not tire, we will not falter, and we will not fail. Thank you very much. Let's roll.
Thank you, Master Chief. And as Master Chief Volan mentioned, the USS Providence, I will share a quick story about them. On 9/11, the Los Angeles-class fast attack submarine, USS Providence, whose home port was right here in Groton, was an element of the Enterprise battle group. Like the carrier, the Providence was nearing the end of her 6-month deployment and making her way back home. Commander Scott Bowden, Providence's commanding officer at the time, had been in the submarine's communication room. He was awaiting some much anticipated baseball highlights when his comms team began to receive the first reports of the attack in New York City. It was immediately clear to me that we weren't going home anytime soon, Commander Bowden said afterward. Providence, like Enterprise, sprinted back to the Gulf. And on October 7th, 2001, Providence took part in the opening salvo of the War on Terrorism, conducting Tomahawk missile strikes into Afghanistan. Today, the fast attack submarines home ported at subbase and the sailors and civilians of the base's more than 70 tenant commands remain just as committed to serving as our nation's sword and shield as the USS Providence and its crew 2 decades ago. And our Coast Guard shipmates, like Chief McManus, and those serving aboard cutters, boats, stations, and units throughout Sector Long Island Sound and at the Academy, remain always ready like they were 2 decades ago. We all do so for love of country. This morning, we are happy to have with us a young bagpiper from the local area, Jackson LaFlash. Jackson, this is a perfect time for a patriotic tribute.
done.
Thank you so much, Jackson. Jackson is a 7th grader from Leonard J. Tile Middle School in Oakdale. He is a member and nationally recognized talent of the Boys and Girls Club of America chapter at our sub-base child and youth program. How about another round of applause for Jackson? Led by the nonprofit organization OpSale Connecticut, the Connecticut Maritime Heritage Festival's goal is to educate visitors about Connecticut's rich maritime history. And on the anniversary of 9/11, the festival's theme for this year, Uniting Our Shores, is indeed poignant. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Eleanor Mariani, Chair of the Connecticut Maritime Heritage Festival.
OpSale Connecticut is honored to have the U.S. Navy and the Coast Guard conduct this important tribute during the Connecticut Maritime Heritage Festival. OpSale Connecticut was incorporated in 2012 to carry on the vision that was implemented by President John F. Kennedy to globally celebrate the sea services. Since then, we have carried out this call by honoring and by holding the Connecticut Maritime Heritage Festival annually that celebrates our local military and for all those who work on or under the sea. We've been working with our steadfast partner, the Connecticut Department of Energy and Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development Office of Tourism, to bring our maritime history to life during the second weekend of September. The Connecticut Maritime Heritage Festival sub-theme is Uniting Our Shores. It is fitting that we utilize this time to pause, honor, and remember the men and women that died during this horrific attack on our nation on September 11th, 2001. Well, This event actually worked to reset unity in the country, as people have said already. We are proud to use this festival to bring together our military sea services and all the partners that utilize Connecticut's waters to protect and serve its citizens, and most importantly, to bring together our communities so that they may have an understanding and appreciation of the important tasks that are being accomplished by the men and women aboard these vessels to protect our people and our environment, to provide food for our tables, to transport goods and services, and to provide amenities such as wind power. OpSale Connecticut would like to invite you to stay for the day and enjoy our festivities. Thank you.
Video Bendfeldt 2022.
Thank you, Eleanor. A decade and a half ago, President George W. Bush declared that in this global war on terrorism, we will not waver, we will not tire, we will not falter, and we will not fail. In the 2 decades since, Americans have made the ultimate sacrifice the world over. We will never forget. In the last verse of In Flanders Field, written by Canadian doctor John McCree, he writes, "Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from falling hands we throw, the torch is yours to hold up high." We on active duty today hold that torch, and we will not waver, we will not tire, we will not falter, and we will not fail this country or those who have gone before us. So in tribute to those who sacrificed their all in service to our nation on 9/11 and since, and in the sea service tradition, we will toll the bell 8 times to mark the completion of their watch. This will be followed by a 21-gun salute and a rendition of Amazing Grace by Jackson LaFlash. Additionally, while Amazing Grace sounds, out on the river, the Groton Long Point Volunteer Fire Department fireboat and the City of Norwich Fire Rescue Boat Marine One will conduct a water display. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand. Officer Candidate Lyman Dickinson of the Coast Guard will ring out the watch. Thank you. Please be seated. The flag of our nation has a long and proud history. I would like to call upon Chief Petty Officer John Anderson of Naval Submarine Support Facility at Subbase to share some history about our flag.
Good morning. It is an honor to join in the remembrance today. To set the stage for our flag retirement, allow us to recall a few key milestones in the great history of our United States flag, or as we in the Sea Services call, our national ensign. The first flag of the colonists to have any resemblance to the present Stars and Stripes was the Grand Union flag, sometimes referred to as the Congress colors, the First Navy ensign, and the Cambridge flag. Its design consisted of 13 stripes, alternating red and white, representing the 13 colonies, with a blue field in the upper left-hand corner bearing the red cross of St. George of England with the white cross of St. Andrew of Scotland. As the flag of the Revolution, it was used on many occasions. It was first flown by the ships of the colonial fleet on the Delaware River. And on December 3rd, 1775, It was raised aboard Captain Eskin Hopkins' flagship Alfred by John Paul Jones, then a Navy lieutenant. Later, the flag was raised on Liberty Pole at Prospect Hill, which was near George Washington's headquarters in Cambridge, Massachusetts. It was our unofficial national flag on July 4, 1776, our Independence Day, and it remained the unofficial national flag and ensign of the Navy until June 14, 1777, when the Continental Congress authorized 13 stripes and 13 stars. When the two new states were admitted to the Union, Kentucky and Vermont, a resolution was adopted in January of 1794, expanding the flag to 15 stars and 15 stripes. This was the official flag of our country from 1795 to 1818 and was prominent in many historic events. Yes, this flag of 15 stars and 15 stripes inspired Francis Scott Key to write the Star-Spangled Banner during the bombardment of Fort McHenry. It was the first flag to be flown over a fortress of the Old World when American Marine and Naval Forces raised it above the pirate stronghold of Tripoli in April 27, 1805. It was the ensign of the American forces in the Battle of Lake Erie on September of 1813, and it was flown by General Jackson in New Orleans in January of 1815. However, realizing that the flag would become unwieldy with a stripe for each new state, Captain Samuel C. Reed, United States Navy, suggested to Congress that the stripes remain 13 in number to represent the 13 colonies, and that a star be added to the blue field for each new state coming into the Union. Accordingly, on April 4th, 1818, President Monroe accepted a bill requiring that the flag of the United States have a union of 20 stars, white on a blue field, and that upon admission of a new state into the Union, one star be added to the flag on the 4th of July following its date of admission. The 13 alternating red and white stripes would remain unchanged. This act succeeded in prescribing the basic design of the flag while assuring that the growth of our nation would be properly symbolized. Eventually, the growth of the country resulted a flag with 48 stars upon the admission of Arizona and New Mexico in 1912. Alaska added a 49th star in 1959 and Hawaii a 50th star in 1960. With the 50-star flag came a new design and arrangement of the stars in the Union, a requirement met by President Eisenhower in Executive Order 10834, issued August 21st, 1959. To conform to this, a national banner with 50 stars became the official flag of the United States, and that flag was raised for the first time at 12:01 a.m. on July 4th, 1960, at the Fort McHenry National Monument in Baltimore, Maryland. It remains the current flag of our great nation.
Thank you, Chief Anderson. This year's Navy Chief Petty Officer selectees will join Chief Anderson in retiring a U.S. flag. Flag detail, post. When the United States flag becomes worn, torn, faded, or badly soiled, it is time to replace it with a new flag. The old flag should be retired with all the dignity and respect befitting our nation. The traditional method of retirement is to incinerate the flag, but this does not mean that one should simply drop the entire flag into a fire. Though we disagree with burning a flag for a political statement and truly feel it is a dishonorable act, we also feel that freedom of speech must be protected. Recognize that today we are not burning a flag. No, we are retiring our nation's colors with fidelity and reverence. This morning, as a poignant tribute in our 9/11 commemoration, we retire a worn United States flag, a symbol of America's honor, courage, and strength. Chief Anderson, please lead us in this solemn event.
The 13 stripes stand for the 13 original colonies. The white stands for purity. The red stands for courage. Give me liberty or give me death. One if by land, two if by sea. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessing of liberty to ourselves and posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States of America. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. They are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or press. Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth upon this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. One nation under God. One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. United we stand, divided we fall.
Thank you, Chief Anderson and Chief Selects. Now that we've retired one national ensign that has served so well, it is only fitting to call upon a new flag and ready it for its watch, flying over our nation, its citizens, and those who serve them. I would now like to call upon Officer Candidate Jordan Lovin of the Coast Guard, a prior culinary specialist chief, along with senior enlisted leaders of the Coast Guard, to lead us in Old Glory.
Good morning. It is an honor to be part of this moving ceremony and add to this remarkable downtown New London waterfront vista today. To quote our U.S. Coast Guard service song, Semper Paratus, from Aztec shore to Arctic zone to Europe and Far East, the flag is carried by our ships in times of war and peace. And never have we struck it yet, in spite of foeman's might, who cheered our crews and cheered again for showing how to fight. This morning, as fitting for a 9/11 commemoration, we will pass the United States flag, a symbol of America's honor, courage, and strength, to local first responders who show us all how to fight and save every day. Flag detail, take your positions. I am the flag of the United States of America. My name is Old Glory. I fly atop the world's tallest buildings. I stand watch in America's halls of justice. I fly majestically over institutions of learning. I stand guard with the greatest military power in the world. Look up and see me. I stand for peace, honor, truth, and justice. I stand for freedom. I am confident. I am arrogant. I am proud. When I am flown with my fellow banners, my head is a little higher, my colors a little truer. I bow to no one. I am recognized all over the world. I am respected, and I am revered. I am loved, and I am feared. I have fought in every battle of every war for more than 200 years. I was flown at Valley Forge, Gettysburg, Shiloh, and Appomattox. I was there at San Juan Hill, the Argonne Forest, Anzio, and the beaches of Normandy. I was there at Iwo Jima, Incheon, Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan. I have led soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marine, Coast Guardsmen, and merchant mariners. I've been dirty, battle-worn, and tired, but service members cheer me. I am proud. I have slipped the bonds of earth and stand watch over the uncharted frontiers of space from my vantage point on the moon. I am wherever those who serve America are defending freedom. I have been soiled upon, burned, torn, and trampled on the streets of countries I have helped set free. It does not hurt, for I am invincible. I have been soiled upon, burned, torn, and trampled on the streets of my country. And when it's by those whom I've served in battle, it hurts. I have borne silent witness to all of America's finest hours, but my finest hours are yet to come. When I am torn into strips and used as bandages for my wounded comrades on the battlefield, when I am flown at half-mast to honor those who have served, or when I lie folded in the trembling arms of a grieving parent at the grave of their fallen son or daughter. My name is Old Glory. Long may I wave. Dear God, long may I wave. And now, in recognition of all first responders, I ask that Fire Captain Matt Reisner of the City of Norwich Fire Department come forward and accept this flag as a tribute to the daily service and sacrifice of all those who answer our nation's and community's call. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. Ladies and gentlemen, finally, let us now join together with the Coast Guard Academy Chorale in singing God Bless America.